Hello, so my name's Josh Clarke.
I'm Darren from
Firth.
Yes, from Aspire Body Transformations. Right, so gonna do a podcast, bit of a podcast. I'll give you loads of information over the coming years or whatever. Okay, so what are we going to talk about?
We're going to talk about dispelling the three main myths surrounding the fitness industry. So it can be within the gym or nutrition, just everything going around the fitness industry, basically.
Yeah, a lot of people believe certain things or are completely misled. Okay, so first one, what should we talk about? Let's talk about training. Okay, so training itself. You might have heard this, you may not, you may be confused about it. Okay, so a lot of people think you've got to be in the gym for hours on end, you know, like 3 hours or whatever. Or you may have heard or know about Arnold Schwarzenegger and such, okay, no doubt. Especially if you're in the bodybuilding, okay, but he should train in the gym for like 3 or 4 hours at a time. Did he? Maybe he spent a lot of time in the gym, okay, with his mates and that practicing and things. If you look at people like Mike Menzer, okay, he believed in high intensity weight training for such as maybe as long as 25 minutes once he's warmed up, and maybe a 5-minute warm down, stressing the system out as fast as he can. Okay, so don't be wasting your time in the gym and turning again and thinking the more you do, the better it is. Yes and no to a point. Okay, now there's only so much stress the body can take. This is a law in the body, as it is in life, as such. So let me clean that one up a bit. So if you think about poor old the Jews in World War II, okay, a lot of them over a period of time have been like, you know, in camps and stuff, and they were oppressed. They kind of just gave up, okay. At the beginning they fought back a bit, and there was certain people that carried on to fight back, but after a while they just like, can't do anymore, can't seem to get on top of this as such, and they just roll over and die. That's the same in the body, okay. So if you don't put enough stress on the body, it doesn't adapt. If you put too much on it, also it doesn't adapt. So there's a sweet point there. But you don't really, this is why you shouldn't be doing it for too long a period of time. So if I'm in the gym now, sometimes Josh and me will go and train here, Aspire Body Transformations, or over other gyms, depending on how we're feeling, or just a bit of a change of scenery. But if we go in there for like 2 or 3 hours, which sometimes we do, what should we train? Josh, what are we going to train? We're going to train arms. No, we don't just train arms. We don't train arms,
Chest,
bit of chest,
back, doesn't it?
Because it's a different gym and we just want to try everything out. Them sessions are completely defunct, aren't they? I go home in the afternoon, I feel like I've been run over, okay?
I see you the next day, don't I? I'm like, oh, I feel shot, don't we? Completely shot.
It takes me about 3 or 4 hours to even feel like I'm even normal again, okay? And I don't really get much benefit from it. Nor will Josh, but we enjoy training, okay? But nothing wrong with that if you enjoy training, apart from you're not really going to gain much more than if you shot in the gym and, you know, warm up for 5-10 minutes as such. Get yourself mentally ready and that, a nice primed up blood around the body, and then just hit it hard. Time and attention, full range of motion, not letting the muscle rest, okay? So don't think by training for hours and hours and hours is going to get you better results. Okay, consistency, repetition on a regular basis, training every day, okay? There's no such thing as overtraining. What there is you're not eating enough, but too much time and stressing the body out for too long a period of time isn't going to get you that great results. Great, it's good to hear that. So you don't have to spend hours in the gym. It's a real misconception.
It's like anything, isn't it, within life? That terminology that we often use, quality over quantity. There's no more simple, effective saying than that. Why would you want to go in the gym for long periods of time, not making any real form of improvement, when you could get in there, get out, be effective, and then get the job done? When you first start training, you want to obviously keep the intensity there, but just focus on the form, the structure of what you're doing, keeping the nutrition important around it. But then after a while, you are going to have to do some form of adaptation and shock the muscle into some form of response. But it doesn't have to come in the way of increasing the endurance of your sessions. It just comes in the quality. So like you said there, Darren, increasing it in terms of like the intensity, increasing your weight, maybe supersetting it with stuff like that. Again, like I just said there, quality over quantity, and there is no truer saying.
Tension, tension on things make them adapt, okay? So stress makes things adapt. It's a standard law. It's the same with us, same with human beings. You've got a nice easy day, you don't have to think much about it. You've got a stressful day, you've got to adapt to it. It's pretty much that simple, really. But don't do it for too long a period of time where it becomes too stressful, and then you kind of like, I can't deal with this anymore, and so does the body. So think about that. Do not spend hours in the gym unless you want to meet people, go into like, I don't know, cafe area afterwards or whatever, okay? But otherwise, yeah, there you go.
And like you said there, as long as your recovery is good, in terms of obviously you're sleeping quite well, 7 to 8 hours, a little bit more, great, most people don't get that. And also your nutrition. These are things that you need in terms of recovery. Otherwise you are going to burn out. You are going to tear muscle fibers more frequently. You are going to feel more fatigued. But yeah, your nutrition and your recovery is so important. So important.
So important. So we sleep for 8 hours a night. Okay, but generally we only need 4 hours, and that's why we sleep for 8 hours, because we generally dip in and out of sleep as such. We might get up in the night and go to the toilet. As soon as you turn the light on, melatonin stops releasing from the brain, which is a chemical that helps us sleep because it thinks it's daytime, and then you're awake again. Okay, so we're not going to talk about that too much, like melatonin and stuff like that. Okay, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about carbs. Okay, now carbs and weight loss. People get a little bit confused about this. Carbs aren't evil, you just need to know how to utilise them when you're in a weight loss. Okay, now, what do we get from carbohydrates? We get carbon. Okay, carbon is good in the muscle, it's part of what we are. Okay, we actually derive from three things: water, nitrogen and carbon. We get nitrogen from protein, we get carbon from carbohydrates. All right, so now, if I'm in a weight loss mode, what we like to do here, and what Josh does in his program as well, is basically we do things like carb depletion, not vicious ones, not horrendous ones, not ones where you be going into competition, but ones where we just let the pancreas rest a little bit and clean out our cells. Right? And spare with me a second, because I'm going to get to why carbs aren't evil. Okay, so your cells can be packed full of nutrients. Okay, so this is insulin resistance as such. But also your pancreas might be a little bit of kind of like bored of eating carbs. So do a slight carb depletion. So over a matter of days, you start to reduce your carbohydrates, you continue to train, chemical cortisol in the system will start to go higher. It's your stress hormone. The main thing that calms cortisol in the body is carbohydrates, so the body keeps pushing, it keeps looking for carbohydrates. Anyhow, let's clean this up a bit, maybe ramming a bit here. So say like a week, you suddenly then take the carbs completely away. Okay, what that then does is it leaves cortisol levels high in the body. The pancreas is now looking for carbohydrates, it just is, because cells are now being depleted. So when I say cells, you look at your muscle's pretty much a cup, and it's full of all nutrients, okay? Most people's cells are completely packed up with carbs and nutrients, and they can't fit any more in, so we want to deplete that a little bit. Right, so this is very, very simple what I'm saying in terms of this is very, very like layman's terms how I'm explaining this, so I hope it's making sense. Right, so then I'll run maybe 3 or 4 days on 0 carbs. Now what we look for at that point is like a bit of a signal in the body, and that's not hunger, okay? Hunger is basically you're not eating enough protein, but hunger is when your glycogen levels are low. And it's your liver actually kind of giving you a bit of a signal. Your liver will secrete glucose. It does even when you're eating carbs, but it will really start to secrete glucose to try and replenish glycogen cells and lower cortisol levels. And it's telling you, please, we're running out. Blood sugar levels are getting low. So we listen to that. Okay, now, when we get this signal, we kind of ignore it a little bit. It's a bit like your car, I always like to say about this in consultations and stuff, but it's a bit like your car. You've got 10 miles left on your dashboard. It's saying you've got to get a petrol station in 10 miles. It's probably about 20 miles in there. It's a safety thing. We've got one of these in our body as well. It's just a standard law. Anyway, we'll talk about laws and stuff. So we listen to that and we kind of ignore it a little bit, and then we completely carb deplete. You don't have to completely, but if you want to, you can. Now, when you actually then put the carbs back, your pancreas is now ready to release insulin. Okay, when we release insulin into the system, our cells, which is our muscles, become really permeable. Okay, and then you're putting the carbs back and you're utilizing them properly. Carb depletion. Now, when we actually go into a weight loss mode after we've done this, we then listen for that signal on a regular basis. The reason why we don't just completely cut carbs is otherwise your system will just run wild. Okay, your cortisol levels will go nuts, and when that happens, it's a bit like putting your foot down in your car and never taking your foot off the accelerator. You're going to crash. You need to slow down sometimes, and carbs will do this. They calm your cortisol levels, replenish glycogen cells, telling the body we're okay, we continue to lose weight. So people completely go into ketosis if they cut their carbs for too long a period of time. And when they do go into ketosis, fine, if they can sustain that and live a normal life through in ketosis, which means they're not allowed to touch carbs hardly at all, okay, apart from fibrous carbohydrates. And yeah, so that's pretty much, sorry, you want to add something? I'm chatting away.
No, obviously we know how much an effective piece of kit carbohydrates can be.
Oh yeah,
play a role in the body in terms of, like, say, if you're trying to gain muscle or lose weight. But why do you think there is such this misconception that, you know, carbs are evil, carbs are the devil, that sort of thing? Why do you think
they are if you eat them on your own? Okay, so this is why it's conflicting. Everything's conflicting because there's always truth in everything to a point. Okay, now carbs are evil if you eat them on your own. Why? Because if you eat a bowl of cereal on its own, right, let's say a bowl of oats, really good for you. Right, so good for cholesterol, blood pressure, slow release of energy in the body. But it's a bit like, well, it's a bit like taking your car to a petrol station. I always say this, right? Pulling the petrol pump off and turn around, you haven't taken your car with you. Your system's a bit like, I'm a bit defunct. So what do I do with this? There's nothing else here. There's no base here, so I've got no protein base. Right? So if I eat carbs on their own, what it generally does is slow my metabolism and muck about my endocrine system, which is my hormone system. It just does. Okay, so if you put protein with carbs, fine, but also nutrient timings. You've got to think about nutrient timing in combinations. We put carbs into the body when it actually requires it. And if you can't get your head around the signal thing, when the body will tell you when you want carbs, although it should do, because we're designed like that, we're primarily designed like that to actually tell you. Okay, so two parts of us are two paleo parts. I'm jumping ship here a little bit. One is when we just get proteins and fats, primarily years, thousands of years ago, and the other part is when we get flowers and seeds and stuff. Plus we've had thousands of years of eating carbohydrates, so we can utilise them in some form of way. Now, if I don't eat my carbs in the right place or at the right time, okay, it's a bit like putting the wrong fuel on the fire at the wrong time. So if I've got a nice fire burning and I go and put, I don't know, putting wood in it, suddenly I dump a load of coal in it, it'll dampen it down. Okay, and also there's a timing thing there. So when's the best time to eat carbs? Generally after your workout. Why? Cortisol levels are highest there, glycogen cells are depleted, and the pancreas will be ready to release. Okay, so don't think carbs are evil. You've got to utilise them, and especially in a weight loss mode. I mean, if we're talking about muscle gain, yeah, eat your carbs and stuff and put quite a lot in without going too much science behind it and how we're doing that. We're talking about weight loss at this point in time and why people think it's so bad around losing weight and carbs. But you've got to keep the system happy. If you let it run wild, you go in a flu-like state and then into ketosis, okay, possibly. Not everyone goes in a flu-like state, going into ketosis, but the system just needs to be calmed every now and again. So carbs aren't evil, you've got to know how to use them, okay? Don't think they are. In weight loss, in muscle mass, building muscle, yeah, we put more carb in, we put more carbohydrate in, but even still you can overcook that. You need to be at the right time of day. So don't think about in terms of eating certain macronutrients. You want to be thinking about, but you want to be thinking about macronutrients and timings. Super important.
Yeah.
Combinations, okay? So two combinations you want to stick to: protein and carbs and protein and fats. In a weight loss method, you want to predominantly be eating proteins and fats, and protein and carbs on their own, okay? So you don't try to put too much of a fatty protein source there with it. You're always going to get fats in meats if you're going to be eating chicken, but otherwise I'm talking about lean proteins. And you want to make sure that just basically that's put in place when the body's really asking for it. Protein and carbs, that is, or directly after a workout. And if you want to talk about fast absorbing after workouts, fast absorbing things, why do we need fast absorbing proteins and carbs after workout? Right, let's talk about a sugary carbohydrate. Let's say a brown banana, loads of potassium in it, was also sugary. Why do we want it sugary? Insulin spike, fast one, open up the cells fast. But what we get after that is this, right? So what do we need to put with it? Complex, okay, yeah. Complex carbs. So when that drops, we put a complex carb behind it, like an oat or something. Oats, not one oat.
One big oat.
One big oat. Okay, and you're just going to put it in, and then when this drops, that comes up, keeps the system nice and calm, continues to open up the cells and let the nutrients go in. Why do we need fast absorbing proteins, like high protein yogurts or whey proteins or whey protein isolate and such? Well, because if you're going to go home and eat, like, you know, a steak and chips or something,
it's too much, isn't it?
It's just too much, right? The tummy's a big old organ, okay? It demands a hell of a lot of blood. So if it demands a lot of blood, so does the muscle after we trained it. And this is a repair process going on here. If we strip down the fibres and rip down the fibres, what's going to win? The quads are going to win if we trained our legs as such, okay? So the tummy can't digest food. So we want to put something in there, just like POW food, such as like prisoner of war camp stuff. When they went and found the prisoner of war people after World War II and they broke into the camps or got into the camps, a lot of them people were so like starved, you know, they couldn't eat solid food, so they had to give them things like whey proteins, but not. So this is where we get whey protein from World War II. Chris Wandsworth told me that years ago. Anyway, so anyhow,
shout out to Chris Wandsworth.
Yeah, Chris Wandsworth. If he's watching.
Yeah, you basically just want to keep it as simple as you can. Don't over simplify it, sort of thing. So the body will want something that's quite easily digestible into the system, like Darren just said. Say if you're training legs, obviously the legs are a major muscle group. The blood's going to be in your legs and it's going to try to go to the stomach to digest the food. And then if it doesn't do that quite well, you're not going to get the benefits of the nutritional value that you've just incorporated. And also you're going to get possibly stomach cramps and stuff like that. So you want something nice, fast absorbing, so also counterbalance DOMS, delayed onset of muscle soreness. So like Darren said, a high protein yogurt, which you see them popping up all the time. I think you can't Aldi, Lidl, all that sort of thing. And obviously your just protein shake
Lidl and
as
Aldi.
well. Yeah, that's it. There you go. Expecting a bit of money now from them. Not that they need it, but basically.
Okay, so other things. I was just thinking. Then the third one was going to talk about. So I was going to say.
The other.
So after you, so people will go. Cardiovascular work. Yeah. Okay, so people got this thing where after you've just done a cardiovascular session, maybe. Okay, we don't generally do a lot of cardiovascular. We do a lot of high intensity weight training. But we do add cardiovascular functional work into our training, but we generally mix the two together. And now, so after you've just been to the gym. Okay, this is another fallacy. I've just burnt calories. I hate talking about calories when we talk about calories. We talk about thermogenic systems generally, but when we talk about calories. You've just done 500 calories on the treadmill, right? That took you about half an hour to do. And suddenly you go home and you read the back of your protein shake and it's got like 300 calories, and you're going to put a bit of carbohydrate in there, something that's ramping up to 100 calories, and before you know it, you've only burnt 100 calories on that treadmill. I won't eat. Don't do that, buds. This is another thing that people get confused about, and other people say you should do that and push your system more. Yes, you should push your system within a 40-minute window after you've actually done any kind of cardiovascular work. Keep your thermogenic system working hard. But again, this is this thing, whereas you do that for too long, the body then goes into a spiral and it will naturally slow down because it's got no form of repair going on or no form of calming effect in the body. So you want to make sure, again, after you work out cardiovascular base, still put nutrients into your system and even carbs into your system, okay? It's kind of a fine line when it comes to carbs after cardiovascular, because there isn't that much tearing down of fibres, so carbon isn't required as much, but your cortisol levels will still need to be dampened. If I worked out 8 o'clock at night and I didn't finish till 9, and I got home and didn't eat till about 1/4 and I only ate protein, white protein as such, your repair process, cortisol levels high, guess what then? My residual activating system sits up here, sits in a fight and flight state, okay, so I can't shut that down. I'm going to sleep with one eye open, which means I'm in a fright and flight state. My pineal gland then can't release any melatonin because it won't do, because it just has to stay like this, wired. You don't sleep. If you don't sleep, okay, you don't repair, you don't lose weight.
All that stuff that we talked about right from the start, isn't it? Sorry, Darren. Also, as well, like Darren said, then if you're not too sure about cortisol, so it's basically your stress hormone, the body's stress hormone, and we would have all experienced this when we was like maybe younger, doing a lot of cross country and stuff like that. Basically, when you've done a hard session, heavy exercise and stuff like that you experience from weight training or cardiovascular work, when you feel quite shaky, essentially. When you feel like you can't, you need to, when you need to sit down and you feel very, very shaky, like Darren says, you need carbohydrates with a lean protein source after the workout directly to kind of calm that system down. Okay. Otherwise, you're going to feel pretty rubbish throughout the whole of the day. You won't repair, you won't grow muscle, you won't lose weight, you won't go to sleep. It's everything. It's like a big old chain effect, isn't it?
Yes, massive chain effect. Yeah. So it's a real. So just. Basically, let's put this all into a nutshell, because this has all been about, in terms of like more training cardiovascular, all about carbohydrates, a lot of the whole thing, which is fine because people do get very confused about the whole thing. You'll get these, you know, you'll get carnivore diets, and so I shouldn't keep doing, actually might not hear me. Carnivore diets, nothing wrong with carnivore diets and stuff, okay? But what we have learned over the last, about the last 20 years, we've become really, really advanced in terms of nutrition and stuff, is that all the nutrients we have been eating over thousands of years, we can now utilise in some way or form, and it keeps the system in a happier way, and it keeps it progressing. So if I used to heavily cut down to like 3% body fat, we go carb free and fat free. There's the other one, okay, we added one in like fats, so that's a real misconception.
Another energy source, yeah. Maybe we'll talk about that in the other episode of the podcast.
Yeah, so that's another thing that people get confused about, or it's another, you know, another, what do we call it?
Misconception
thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was I saying then? What was I saying?
You're saying about going down to 3 to 5% body fat.
That's it, yeah. So we used to cut fats and carbs and just pretty much eat protein. Terrible, man. Really harsh on the system. If you went into competition now, you wouldn't do that. You do what I just said. You keep carbs in the mix. Now, Hanny Rambo, if you're watching this, I'd like to think you agree with me, because I know you've done this. Okay, so
shout a lot of people, ain't we? Howdy, Little, Hanny Rambo.
Yeah, we're going to tag him, aren't we? They keep, like, if you followed someone on, say, YouTube, and you watch their journey into a comp, yeah, like Mr. Olympia or something, classic physique, you'll notice they're quite okay to talk to, and they're quite aware. Years ago, we'd be like, hoodie up, stuff like that, don't talk to me. Chris Wandsworth, again, he'd agree with it. He's comped loads and loads of times, and if you went up to Chris like a week out of his comp, he wouldn't talk to you.
Don't talk to me, yeah.
And he couldn't. You just don't compute, and your transmitters aren't firing fast, or everything's still just under stress. It's not a great thing to do, especially when you come out of the comp, and you no, so if you put yourself into a nice calm place, the body will continue to kind of like work with you, and you're not stressed out. Stressing out when you're training, okay, it's good when you're training, not afterwards. You want to keep your body in the most calmest anabolic state as possible. Okay, so if you're a stressful person, you're struggle to lose weight generally, okay, because your cortisol will be high all the time. Same growing muscle. If you're a stressful person, don't, if you want to grow muscle. Keep your body in an anabolic state. And anabolic is when the body's calm and it's nice and happy and everything's functioning properly, you're not fully stressing it out. You're not anabolic when you're training. When you're training, you're catabolic. We're catabolizing a little bit there. We're breaking things down. Okay, the system is under major stress. So we're talking about muscle mass there, but that's the same in terms of losing weight as well. We want to stress the system out, harsh, hard, thermogenic system, burn your fat system, or fat burning system, i.e. not so much thinking about calories. Otherwise you could just go, so if I walk from here to the local town, or I run from here to the local town, I just get there quicker. I don't burn any more calories, believe it or not. If I go there on the way up and down, round the corner, and all this sort of stuff, and it starts snowing, it's raining, it's freezing, it's hot, okay, that's harsher on my system, but it's the same distance. My thermogenic system has to kick in to help me there to actually burn fat cells rather than focusing on just getting there and just burning a few glycogen cells. Okay, so all stuff that people get really confused about, and stuff we're going to talk about over the next coming months and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think
that's pretty good for the first episode. So maybe we should have done this at the start, but we'll give you a little bit of background about us briefly. But anyway, my name's obviously Josh. Been a personal trainer now for like 7 years. Been working down with Darren, under Darren for, I think I started in like September, didn't I? September of 2020. So yeah, a long period of time now. We're in Southminster, ABT, Aspire Body Transformations. We do a lot of group training, one-to-ones, different stuff like that. Just loads of different stuff.
Yeah, we do charity events.
Charity events. Yeah,
it's more of a family setup. So it's like your quintessential sort of run-of-the-mill commercial gym. Okay, it's like it's a what's the word, community based sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's a big old gym, massive gym, although you can't see it. Yeah. You know what I mean? But we started off in Malden, then Purley, now Southminster, upgrading each time. But so I've been in the fitness industry all my life. I was a builder for a little while, but generally hated all that, so I went full circle back to fitness, gyms, got a gym, started growing the business, and we're just out to help people, and that's what we like to do. It's a mate, we're very passionate about what we do, and our skill set and knowledge all comes from not qualifications, but just the amount of people we trained and the amount of people we train with. Your qualifications are...
Yeah, we are qualified, we
get our middle qualifications from the thousands of people we train and learn from that. And also, here's a little tip for you before we go. Okay, if you want to know about your body, okay, if you want to understand your body and what it really requires and desires, thinking about the way you think. Okay, the way you think is the way your body thinks. That might sound a bit guru-ish or something. I can't think of the word. What I mean by that is, let me give you a little bit of an acronym. Let's talk about weight loss one quickly, and we will wrap it up then. Okay, so I've got 20 pounds. Some people may have even heard this, especially if you've done a consultation with me. Okay, or us, sorry. I've got 20 pounds. Okay, Josh comes along and asks for £5 of that. All right, so that 20 pounds is going to last me all week. I knew exactly what I was going to spend it on. I was quite comfortable. Yeah, now I've only got £15. Josh has got £5 of it. 5 minutes later, he comes along and asks for another £5. Okay, now I've only got £10. You've got £10 of it. Doesn't matter how much Josh has got. We're going to talk about what's happening in me. Okay, so now I'm thinking twice about what I'm going to spend it on. Then another 5 minutes, he asks for another £5. I think you see what's happening here. I like to think so anyway. I'll give him the £5 stupidly, and then about another 10 minutes later, he asks for that last £5. I say, no way, bud. Not a million years. Right now, that £5 now, I've got to think damn hard of what I'm going to spend it on. Okay, I might not even spend it. Okay, I don't know if I'm going to get that £20 again next week or whatever. I might go through the same process again with Josh. Now, what I'm saying here is, if you restrict certain macronutrients or certain things from your body, such as fats and carbs, at the wrong time and things, it holds them back. Okay, so you need to give your body just enough to do all its functionality and all the reasons why you're giving it. It needs to be given to it. I hope that makes sense. Why at the right times, and it will continue to work for you. Right. So if I don't give my body just enough fat to do all its jobs, like brain power, joint ability, processing protein. Okay, clean the system through if it's a good fat, or the immune system if it's a bad fat. Okay, 20% generally saturated, and the rest should be good fats. Don't talk about that too much. Or 80%, sorry, should be good fats. But if I don't give it just enough, and also enough fats to when I want it to release cells, in terms of fat cells in the sessions and that, it won't do that. It will pick on certain individual jobs, maybe joint ability at that point, or maybe brain power, as seen as more important, and do that, and then the rest will just be put to the side. Okay, so too much fat, we don't lose weight. Sorry, too much fat, we'll put on weight. Not enough fat, we don't lose weight. So there's a sweet spot there. So what I'm saying is, in terms of, I start to retain macronutrients back, I start to hold it back, and I have to really think about what I'm going to put on. That's just one law. So, but the way I'm thinking there is the way my body thinks. Hopefully that makes sense. There's a nice little, there's a bonus for you.
Yeah, stay to the end, so you collect a little bonus for you.
Little bonus, yeah. If you stay to the end, you've got that. In which case, you'll be expert in a couple of weeks.
There you go. So obviously, this is episode 1 of the Performance Podcast. We're going to try to get these out once a week, ideally.
Training as well. We'll be doing training podcasts.
Loads of different stuff, like some training podcasts. So yeah, just constantly related to the fitness industry. We might go off on little tangents like we've done today, but yeah, that's what it's all about, guys. So just like, comment, share, tell us what you thought of it, and obviously we can get good feedback, and we can go from there on your ideas.
Anything else you want to talk about? Okay, if you've got any questions, bung it in the comments, or contact us directly if you want. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I'll be tagging Josh's page, he'll tag mine, no doubt. So just put comments in, and that's that really, buds, and just hopefully have a good day.
That's it. We'll speak to you soon.
All right.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.